welcome to yet another episode of the Science and Tech PT special series. Let's begin with our first topic for today, that is genetically modified organisms. These are organisms whose DNAs have been modified in order to make them more sustainable in nature or more qualified in nature or other things as well. So let's begin with the features of it now. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has set 1% threshold should be there for genetically modified organism in food crops that are imported to India. Okay, so you have to remember the threshold, who has set it, because it is related to safety. We do not know what is a GMO is capable of doing, right, to the body of the human beings. So safety is included in it. That is why FSSAI has set up a threshold 1% of 1%. Earlier, it had issued the order that 24 food crops in the Indian country imports would need a non-GM origin cum GM-free certificate. Then only these 24 crops could be imported. Okay, and living organisms whose genetic material has been artificially manipulated. Okay, in a laboratory through genetic engineering, these are known as genetically modified organisms. It creates a combination of plant, animal, bacteria, and virus genes, and they do not occur in nature or through traditional cross-breeding methods. It is not possible. So they are done in a lab. That means there is a higher risk of, any sort of threat could arise from a GMO. That is why Safety Authority, Food Safety Authority is included in it. So GMOs, BT cotton is the only genetic modified organism crop, you can say GMC, that is allowed in India. Okay, so the commercial use of only BT cotton is allowed. And BT brinjal, which is a gene that allows the plant to resist attack for fruit and shoot borers, is there, but right now it is not applicable throughout the country. In DMH11 mustard, genetic modification allows cross-pollination in a crop that self-pollinates in nature. Okay, so you have to remember what is the process of making DMH11 mustard. It can be asked in prelims. So self-pollination is there in nature, but here cross-pollination occurs. That is why it is GMO. Okay, moving on. Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is the apex body that allows the commercial release of GMO. Okay, so remember that. And Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is working under whom? Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. This could be a tricky question if you do not know this fact. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Why? Because basically it works under the aegis of Environment Protection Act, and use of approved GM variant can attract a jail term. Jail term is 5 years and a fine of rupees 1 lakh. So jail term you have to remember, fine as well. Okay, moving on. Now regulation of imported crop, if we talk about the task of regulating GMO levels in imported consumables, was initially with the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. Okay, and its role was diluted with the enactment of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India Act. So remember which act was in existence first and the replacement as well. Now FSSAI was asked to take over the approvals of imported goods. Alright, moving on, let's talk about National Gene Bank. So National Gene Bank has been in the news quite recently. So you make sure that you know the features of National Gene Bank. Okay, it's inaugurated at the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, and it's the world's second largest refurbished state-of-the-art gene bank, Delhi, basically in New Delhi. And gene banks are a type of biorepository which preserves genetic material. In case of any crisis, we can access those genes. That is why this gene bank has been developed. Moving on. The National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, basically it is a nodal organization to manage the plant genetic resources first. Also, it functions under the control of Indian Council of Agricultural Research. So remember under which research facility it works. We have to understand what is the functioning of this particular organization, because it could be asked in prelims, the features of the bank. Okay. Now, conserving seed germplasm for long-term conservation at minus 20 degrees Celsius in its National Gene Bank. This is one of the features. And it also plans, organizes, conducts and coordinates exploration and collection of indigenous and exotic plant genetic resources, because we never know what kind of plants or what kind of genes we need if extinction takes place. That is why. headquartered in New Delhi and has 10 regional stations. I have already told you in the beginning. So headquarters could be asked as well. National Gene Bank was first time ever was established in the year 1996 and it preserves the seeds of plant genetic resources for future generation. Okay. And it also has a capacity to preserve about 1 million. How much? It could be asked. 1 million germplasm in the form of seeds. Okay. Basically, germplasm is living tissue from which new plants can be grown. Moving on. The National Gene Bank has four kinds of facilities to cater to long-term as well as medium-term conservation, namely seed gene bank, cryo gene bank, in vitro gene bank, and field gene bank. So cryo gene bank, basically it will store remember the temperatures as well. It will store the seeds at minus 170 degrees Celsius, basically anything below minus 150 degrees Celsius or absolute zero. Absolute zero is a cryogene technology to store anything. Okay. In vitro gene bank, 25 degrees Celsius, seed gene bank minus 18 degrees Celsius, and cryogene bank minus 170 degrees Celsius to minus 196 degrees Celsius, and field gene bank. Now it stores different crop groups such as cereals, millets, medicinal and aromatic plants and narcotics in order to make sure that food security is there. Moving on to the next important things. National Animal Gene Bank, let's talk about that as well. It was established at the National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources. Where is it? It is in Karnal, Haryana. Okay, remember the seed one and the animal one, both plants and animals, both differently headquartered. Objective is to conserve the indigenous livestock biodiversity. It is one of the Indian Council of Agriculture Research Institute. Important. Moving on. Herbicide-Tolerant rice variety. Herbicides are an infestation basically. So in order to make the food security intact, keep the food security intact, and other than that also in order to make sure that the rice which we are growing, whatever land we have in limited nature, it is sustainable, it does not go rot, and farmers have a proper income. So the Indian Agriculture Research Institute has developed Pusa Basmati 1979 and Pusa Basmati 1985. Okay, and their country's first ever non-GM herbicide. That means no genetic modification has taken place. Okay, these are non-GM herbicide rice that is tolerant in variety. Okay, these varieties can be directly seeded, no other thing needed. These significantly save water and the labor that is needed to seed them. IARI is basically a deemed university. It could be asked it is an autonomous institute or something like that, but it's a deemed university. Okay, let's talk about the new varieties of rice. If it is asked in the prelims, at least you know the information. So it contains a muted acetolactate synthase gene. It makes it possible for farmers to spray Imazethapir, a broad spectrum herbicide, to control weeds. The ALS gene in rice codes for an enzyme, that is a protein that synthesizes the amino acids for crop growth and development. So protein is needed to synthesize amino acid. Remember that. What is needed to synthesize amino acid? Protein. Okay. The herbicide that is sprayed on normal rice plants, it binds itself to the ALS enzyme, inhibiting the production of amino acids. Now, Imazethapir, effective against a range of broadleaf grassy and sedge weeds. It can't be used on normal paddy as the chemical does not distinguish between the crops and the invasive plants. Let's talk about advantages of these varieties. Direct seeding of rice activity. The new varieties simply replace water with Imazethapir. So, water security, that is checked with the help of this. There is no need for nursery, puddling, transplanting and flooding the fields, which is a general process of planting rice. So all these will be overcome. That means low labor cost and low labor as well. Water basically is a natural herbicide. It takes care of weeds in the paddy crop's early growth phase. And new varieties will help in direct seeding of rice, which has several advantages over paddy transplantation. Now it's a cheaper option as well because the cultivation is currently based on two herbicides, pendimethalin and bisparibate sodium. So you have to remember these two herbicides name. What are these? These are herbicides. And however, Imazethapir is cheaper than these two options also well. So safer option because moreover it has a wider weed control range and safer, and the ALS gene isn't present in humans and mammals. Let's talk about clean fuel hydrogen. If we talk about the hydrogen as a fuel, hydrogen is abundantly available in the Earth's atmosphere, but the purer form is not, because it is very light, so it escapes the atmosphere. So in order to make sure that we have hydrogen as a fuel, we have to create it. And how do we create it? It categorizes the creation process into different categories like blue hydrogen, green hydrogen, yellow hydrogen is also there. So researchers at the IIT Delhi, they have come up with a way to generate clean fuel hydrogen from water at low cost, which is a significant step towards having the efforts across the globe that are being made to look for cleaner and greener energy. Hydrogen is a viable choice. It is a renewable substitute for fossil fuel and helps mitigate emissions. The researchers at IIT Delhi have successfully split water by a process known as sulfur iodine thermochemical hydrogen cycle to generate low-cost, clean energy, clean industrial fuel. And generally in this cycle, the separation of hydrogen from oxygen requires a high amount of heat. So if it is asked in prelims, what is the process for sulfur iodine thermochemical hydrogen cycle? In order to separate hydrogen from oxygen, a lot of heat is required, okay? And generally from non-renewable sources such as coal, oil and natural gas. So if we are using our source from non-renewable sources like coal, oil and natural gas, is it very clean? Because in order to create a cleaner fuel, we are using the non-cleaner one. So this will fall into the category of either gray hydrogen or blue hydrogen, okay, depending. Moving on, this makes the large-scale production of hydrogen gas economically non-viable and non-environment friendly, okay. And the main achievement has been designing a suitable catalyst for the energy-intensive corrosive step of sulfuric acid conversion to sulfur dioxide oxygen. Remember this. Now it is a three-step thermochemical cycle, the sulfur iodine cycle, in order to produce hydrogen. The chemicals are recycled. This process requires an efficient source of heat. It enters the cycle in high temperature endothermic chemical reaction in the initial process. Then heat exits the cycle in the low temperature exothermic reaction in the final stage of obtaining hydrogen gas. What is the significance of this discovery? It enhances hydrogen fuel cell technology because it enables availability of low-cost hydrogen. It will enhance and improve the application of hydrogen fuel cell technology, and fuel cell can further be used in different technologies. And also because this has been developed indigenously, this is also a great step with respect to innovation and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now offers the advantage of a clean and reliable alternate energy source to application, and it helps adhere emission targets because under the nationally determined contribution, India has to make sure that we sequester. First of all, we have to reduce the greenhouse gas emission by 33 to 35% of our GDP if we compare the year of 2005 to 2030. Between these years, the reduction in the GHG emission should be 33 to 35%. So for that also it will help a lot. Moving on, its objective is to support hybrid electric vehicles, market development and manufacturing ecosystem. Like we are already moving towards Bharat's stage 6 vehicles. After that, we will have those flex fuel vehicles in which we can use either electric energy or the conventional energy, that is fuel, petrol and diesel. So in that also it will help a lot. And let's talk about nuclear fusion energy, which scientists in the UK have achieved a new milestone in producing nuclear fusion energy. It's different from fission. And what is nuclear fusion? It requires combining several small nuclei into one large nucleus with the subsequent release of huge amount of energy. And when we talk about fission, it's division. Fusion is coming together. Fission is multiplication, not division. So if we talk about energy, fission is not very controllable. Fusion is controllable. That is a big deal. So fission is where heavy isotopes are split apart, and harnessing fusion, the process that powers the sun, could provide a limitless clean energy source. In the sun, the extreme pressure produced by its immense gravity creates the condition for fusion to happen. Sometimes you might be asked fission to happen. The energy source in the sun is fission. No, it's fusion. Moving on. The reaction takes place in the state of matter called plasma. It's a hot, charged gas made of positive ions and free moving electrons. It has a unique property distinct from solid, liquid and gases, and it is also known as the fourth state of matter. Plasma is the fourth state of matter. At high temperatures, electrons are whipped off from the atom's nuclei. and it becomes a plasma or an ionized state of matter. It is also known as the fourth state of matter, which I have already told you. Moving on, let's talk about the advantages of nuclear fusion. Fusing atoms together in a controlled way, as I told you, when we are making certain things meet, we have the control over it. But if we multiply it, it would move so far along that we might not be able to take care of it. So first, that abundant energy is available, and that is nearly 4 million times more energy than a chemical reaction. Sustainability is a lot because it is widely available and nearly inexhaustible. It can never be exhausted. Also, no carbon dioxide. So it is particularly, we are talking about technology that is sustainable in nature. This is our answer. And there is a limited risk of proliferation because we are talking about fusion. Fusion doesn't have the risk of proliferating or spreading. Fission has. So remember that as well. Moving on, other international initiatives on nuclear fusion energy include International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor Assembly. This is the WAY in Latin. It is one of the most ambitious energy projects in the world today. You have to remember the number of members and the names of members for this. Okay, so China is there, European Union is there, India, Japan, Korea is there, Russia and United States. So you can remember like this. 2 superpowers, USA and Russia, erstwhile superpowers. Then comes, if we talk about Asian region, China is very ambitious, India is very ambitious, Japan also, Korea also. So like this you can remember. Also with respect to European Union, it is a part everywhere. So European Union is like that. Moving on, let's talk about China's artificial sun, which is the experimental name is Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak. It is a device that has been designed by China, and it actually replicates or mimics what the nuclear fusion process of the sun is. Okay. So 2-3 things we have understood. The name EAST, what is EAST, tokamak related to it could be asked like that. Who is leading this? China is leading this, and it mimics the process of fusion of the sun. That means it is something which is related to energy. Now let's talk about converting CO2 to methane. So methane is a potent greenhouse gas, second only to CO2. Remember that it is also a very potent greenhouse gas. Indian scientists, they have designed a photochemical method to convert carbon dioxide into methane. And a photochemical method is used. It is a chemical reaction which is initiated by the absorption of energy in the form of light. So photo means what? Light. So it's a, first of all, chemical reaction. Okay. And it is initiated by the absorption of energy. Energy is absorbed in the form of light. So that is photochemical. Chemical and light is related to it. Moving on. Now, a polymer has been designed to absorb visible light and catalyze the reaction which reduces CO2. First, that a polymer, in order to absorb visible light, and it catalyzes the reaction which reduces CO2. After that, what happens? It will give rise to the process that will absorb CO2. And most catalysts contain toxic and expensive metal counterparts. Now, scientists designed a metal-free porous organic polymer to overcome this drawback. The disadvantage of reducing CO2 was that toxins have been employed in order to, the polymers that have been developed were basically having toxins. So that was a byproduct. Now, in order to take care of that, scientists have come up with this polymer. This is metal free, okay, and it is also porous in nature. Moving on, methane can be one of the value-added products with significant uses as the cleanest burning fossil fuel. It can directly be used in fuel cells as a hydrogen carrier, and it is also the main component of natural gas. So what is the main component of natural gas? It is methane. Okay, it has the potential to replace coal for electricity generation and furnishing flexible supply to reinforce intermittent renewable generators. Now there is a challenge here. India has also made a commitment to reduce methane by the year, there is not an any year, but also there is a risk of making this gas as a more potent greenhouse gas that is present in the atmosphere. Moving on. Now let's talk about Deep Ocean Mission, one of the missions of India, very important, very ambitious. Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved the proposal for the Ministry of Earth Sciences on the Deep Ocean Mission. Like we have Gaganyaan, the space exploration, like similarly we have Deep Ocean Mission for the ocean region. The blueprint of the Deep Ocean Mission is to explore the deep recesses of the ocean. It was unveiled in the year 2018, it could be 2021, 2020, 2019, but the correct answer would be 2018, remember that. Earlier, Ministry of Earth Sciences had also rolled out the draft Blue Economy Policy. So this particular ambitious project is under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Also remember that could be asked in prelims. About is that the cost of the mission has been estimated at rupees 4,077 crore and the period will be 5 years. So it might not ask the corpus, but it can ask the time period. It will be implemented in different phases, not at once. And this will be Ministry of Earth Sciences, as I already told you, will be the nodal ministry for implementing the multidimensional ambitious mission. And a mission mode project will be there to support the blue economy initiatives, basically to make sure that whatever economy is dependent on the oceans like fish harvesting, aquaculture, many other things that are sustainable in nature, and that is basically blue economy, taking care of the nature as well. So it is, as I told you, sustainable use of ocean resources. Sustainable means to use in such a manner that the resources are available for our future generations as well. And these resources in order to improve economic growth, livelihoods and jobs, and ocean ecosystem health as well. The technology and expertise which is needed in such mission is now available only with 5 countries. So remember the countries' name, please. USA, Russia, France, Japan and China. The major components include development of technologies for deep sea mining and manned submersible. A manned submersible carries 3 people. So it could be asked again here, manned submersible can carry up to 3 people, remember that. And to a depth of 6,000 meters in the ocean with a suite of scientific sensors and tools. It could be asked in prelims. The manned submersible can go up to 12,000 meters, but that is not correct here. It's 6,000 meters. So like that, numbers are important sometimes. An integrated mining system has been developed for mining polymetallic nodules at those depth in the Central Indian Ocean. So Central Indian Ocean is a very large repository of polymetallic nodules that can help India achieve energy security. So for that as well, in order to mine those nodules, this has been introduced, this particular mission. Polymetallic nodules are rocks which are scattered on the seabed containing many things, many metals and important elements such as iron, manganese. So if it is asked in prelims, remember the names: iron, manganese, nickel and cobalt as well. And the exploration studies of the minerals will pave the way for commercial exploration in the near future as well. Now, development of ocean climate change advisory services in order to understand and provide future projections of important climate variables on seasonal to decadal timescales. Basically, when we go deep into the ocean, we will understand what is the pattern of the climate change from the ocean as well. So that in order to develop an early warning system, this is also very impactful. Now, technological innovation for exploration and conservation of deep sea biodiversity. If we once explore it, we will know what other equipments are required to make sure that we have much more technology than we today have actually. Bioprospecting of deep sea flora, fauna, including microbes, and study on sustainable utilization of deep sea bioresources will be the main focus here. Now, it could be asked in prelims about the important features of the deep ocean mission, and you have to remember what are all included. If you do not go through this well, you will never be able to answer that question if it is asked. Moving on. Now, deep ocean survey and exploration is also there because it will explore and identify potential sites of multi-metal, hydrothermal, sulfides mineralization, energy and fresh water from the ocean, studies and details with respect to engineering design for offshore ocean thermal energy conversion. OTEC powered desalinization plants are envisaged in the proof of concept proposal. So, this is also a part of it. So, if it is one of the statements for deep ocean mission in prelims, answer this. Okay. Moving on. Advanced Marine Station for Ocean Biology, basically for development of human capacity and enterprise in ocean biology and engineering, translating the research into industrial application. Whatever research has been done should also be implemented industrially, and product development through on-site business incubator facilities will be given. Let's talk about airline mapping of ocean floor. Basically, INCOIS is planning to conduct airline mapping of Andaman and Nicobar Island, which comes under the INCOIS comes under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Remember that, okay? And also Lakshadweep is included in it to get a better picture of the ocean floor. Let's know our ocean with this mission. Now let's know about INCOIS. It is an autonomous organization under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, which was established in 1999. Year of establishment can be asked. and also where it is located, basically headquarters. Okay, and it is a unit of Earth System Science Organization in New Delhi. It operates as an executive arm, okay, of the Ministry of Earth Sciences for policy making and policy implementation. Recent initiative about it, because it is planning to take the help of National Remote Sensing Center to conduct bathymetric study of Andaman and Nicobar Island. Basically, NRSC is one of the primary center of ISRO, okay, Department of Space. Bathymetry is the study of beds and flows of water. So bathymetry, it could be asked in prelims, what is it related to? Bathymetry is basically reading and mapping the ocean beds and sea flows, okay, and that also includes rivers, streams and lakes. Moving on, significance is that such a study has become imperative to know the recent tsunami waves, because our plates, specifically with respect to the Indian plate against the Eurasian plate first, and also the plates near the circum-Pacific belt, these are very volatile in nature. So in order to understand plate tectonics, we also need such a study. At Indonesian coasts, where more than the quake-related high waves damage was due to landslide that had under the seabeds, causing sudden wave surge, leading to much damage without giving sufficient time to alert people. So whenever the plate subducts heavier plate, this is the heavier plate, the oceanic, and suppose this is the lighter continental plate. Whenever the oceanic plate goes down, this is known as subduction. Okay, and because of subduction, earthquakes and volcanic activities take place. So we need to understand what and when is this going to happen. For this, we need this particular mapping, bathymetry mapping. And why we need that? For early warning system, to make sure that people's lives are saved at any cost. Moving on. Now, similar global initiatives have been taken, like Seabed 2030, which is a collaborative project between the Nippon Foundation of Japan and General Bathymetric Chart of the Oceans. Remember this, okay? It could be, you could get confused between Japan and European Union. So make sure that you remember the names. The project aims to bring together all available bathymetric data to produce the definitive map of the world ocean floor by the year 2030. Now let's talk about hypersonic technology. Now, why this is very important for us to understand, because we are dealing with a technology that can destroy the human race in the coming future. Why? Because China has tested a nuclear capable hypersonic technology. First is nuclear, second is hypersonic. Hypersonic technology can travel 5 times, basically 5 times the speed of sound. And that is why Mach means speed of sound. 5 times more than that, it means it will become very hard to intercept. It has high maneuverability, but it is a little slower than the ballistic missile. That is fine. And prelim question could be asked, which of the following statements are correct with respect to hypersonic technology? The statements could be made like, these can travel at a speed 5 times that of sound. This will be correct. They cannot be maneuvered, but they can be maneuvered. So this will become wrong. They are faster than ballistic missile. No, they are slower than ballistic missile. So these kind of questions could be asked. Okay. Moving on. Hypersonic technology development is a threat for Indian space assets because it can maneuver in the space as well. And this offense system, it operates at the speed would mean a requirement to develop defense system at the same speed. And hypersonic speed are basically 5 or more times the Mach or speed of sound. Mach number describes an aircraft speed compared with the speed of sound in the air. So Mach number you have to remember, and the speed of sound, it is related to remember this. Okay. Moving on. Also, make sure that you know what is subsonic, supersonic, hypersonic. Okay. So hypersonic cruise missile. These are rockets or jet propellants through their flight, and they are regarded being just faster version of existing cruise missile. Okay, nothing very special, but still. Hypersonic glide missile. Glide means to go up then come down, right? So they first go up into the atmosphere like the conventional rocket before being launched towards their target. So mean better view. This is the speciality of hypersonic vehicle. Let's talk about the technology used. Most hypersonic vehicles, they primarily use what technology? Scramjet. It is a type of air-breathing propulsion system and extremely complex plus costly technology it is. Moving on, two-dimensional electron gas. Let's talk about this. Scientists at Institute of Nanoscience and Technology, Mohali, Punjab, they have produced an ultra-high mobility two-dimensional electron gas. So sometimes it can be asked in the prelims, who or which of the following institutes has developed two-dimensional electron gas. So remember the name, Institute of Nanoscience and Technology at Mohali. This question, because many of you do not read the science and tech portion of the Hindu, that is why you won't be answering. be able to answer this question because this has happened with many students. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about two-dimensional electron gas. It is the gas which is free to move in two dimensions but tightly confined to the third. And the tight confinement leads to quantized energy levels for motion in the third direction. Now the electrons, they appear to be 2D, a 2D sheet embedded in a 3D world. So you see transition is happening. And one of the most important recent development in semiconductors has been the achievement of structures in which the electronic behavior is essentially 2D. Most DEGs, they are found in transistor-like structures made from semiconductors. It is a valuable system for exploring the physics of superconductivity, magnetism, and their coexistence. So what is the purpose of this? This could be asked in your examination. Not a lot of questions which are deep in nature would be asked. You don't have to do any hypothesis, but know the basic features of it. Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about the mechanism and importance. Now, because there is a high mobility of electron gas, they do not collide inside the medium for a long distance. Now, because of that, they do not lose any memory and information. And it can speed up the transfer of quantum information and signal from one part to a device to another. Basically, in order to make sure that whatever information we are transmitting is safe, secure, and encrypted, this particular technology will work wonders. Moving on, it can increase data storage and memory. And because they collide less during their flow, the resistance is also very low and they do not dissipate energy as heat. And these devices do not heat up easily, need less input energy to operate. So these are the many features. Preserving land races, let's talk about that. Padma Shri Award has been given to Rahibai Popore, popularly known as Seed Mother. Who is popularly known as Seed Mother? You have to remember the name. Okay. She belongs from Akole Taluka of Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. She was recognized for her work that has helped save hundreds of land races at the village level. And farmers mainly grow hybrid crops. It's a result of two different varieties of plants being cross-pollinated to create an offspring or hybrid. It contains the best traits of each of the parent. Basically, it betters the quality. And over the years, farmers have adopted these varieties. Moving on. Crop improvement through selection and breeding over several decades has narrowed the genetic base. If we are just going to move on with hybrid cropping, what about the original parent crop? So because of that, diversity has also come down. This is one of the disadvantages. It can be asked in your prelims, the disadvantage. Biodiversity has a natural mechanism for crops to develop traits to face challenging situations. Given the large-scale human interference in crop selection, the ability is now totally lost in most commercial crops. It refers, basically, if we talk about land races, it refers to naturally occurring variants of commonly cultivated crops, and these are opposed to the commercial grown crops, which are developed by selective breeding or through genetic engineering to express a certain trait over the others. Amidst the threat of climate change, a challenge before scientists and policymakers is to develop varieties that can withstand both abiotic and biotic stresses. Rich genetic pool. Why do we need to actually preserve land races, original crops? Because it provides rich genetic pool, and they have a large pool of still untapped genetic material which we can only know by their regular use. Higher yields with proper input, because whenever there is proper input provided to them, they can give higher yields. It's not the nature but what we provide to them. Higher nutrition profile, because many land races are richer in nutrients than commercially grown varieties. Now let's talk about certain examples of land races or original crops. These are Kalbhat. It is a unique land race of scented rice. What is Kalbhat? It can be a direct question in your examination, so remember what is it. Okay. Over the years, this variant has almost vanished, unfortunately, and hybrid variants have come better. It has better climate resilience than popularly grown rice and can withstand floods and drought better. Moving on. Let's talk about Nobel Prize in Physics of 2021, which has been awarded to Sukoru Manabe and Klaus Hasselmann for the physical modeling of Earth's climate, quantifying variability and reliably predicting global warming. So every time there was the statement heard global warming and climate change, these are nothing but a myth from very prominent leaders of the world. So they have done a great job, a Nobel job with respect to developing this model. Giorgio Parisi for the discovery of the interplay of disorders and fluctuation in physical system for atomic and planetary scale. So it could be asked in a prelims examination, who are the Nobel laureates, for what particular field they are awarded the Nobel Prize. Okay, moving on. Now, if we talk about in medicine of 2021, two United States-based scientists, David Julius and Adam Pataputian, they have been awarded the 2021 Nobel Prize for Physiology in Medicine, and the prize was conferred for the discovery of receptors for temperature and touch. And we feel temperature, we feel touch, but we did not know what is the exact receptor that is making us do so. So for that only, they have focused their work in the field of somatosensation. So remember this name, what is somatosensation? Okay, it is the ability of a specialized organ such as eyes, ears and skin to see, hear and feel. David Julius discovered PRP-V1, which is a heat sensing receptor. Okay, and the findings were done on the skin sense of temperature. It was based on how certain cells react to capsaicin. So capsaicin is present in chilies as well. Capsaicin molecule makes chili peppers spicy by simulating a false sensation of heat. And this is a false sensation of heat. First of all, remember that it could be asked in prelims. Which of the following elements are present, or which of the following, you can say, constituent is present in spicy food? So capsaicin is the correct answer. Okay, moving on. Now, he discovered two, if we talk about Ardent Pataputian, he discovered two mechanosensitive ion channels known as piezo channels. Piezo 1 is named after the Greek word for pressure, that is pacey. He is credited for finding the cellular mechanism and the underlying gene that translate a mechanical force on our skin into electric nerve cell. Moving on, the findings are significant because they have allowed us to discover and understand how heat, cold, mechanical force, they can initiate the nerve impulses, and this knowledge is being used to develop treatments for a wide range of disease conditions, including chronic pain, because we only treated what? The upper ones, the result or the symptoms of such thing. But because of the knowing of the source or the chronic, presence of something, we will understand that we have to actually treat the source and not the symptom. So that's it. Now we are actually concluding our Science and Tech PT special episode. Thank you so much for watching and all the best for your examination.